Hello, entertainment enthusiasts. This is Ray, and this is the Fandom Realm. And tonight I am doing a quick review of Dungeons and Dragons. It is not just an out of the theater review. I'm just basically things didn't really set up to do that. So this is a 5 minute after I got home review. Now, as always, spoilers abound, so be aware. Don't get spoiled if you haven't seen the show, if you haven't seen the movie. Now, with that, I just want to start out by saying I enjoyed the movie. Okay, it was fine. It was fun. I was entertained. I'm not a D&D player though, and so some things may have been lost on me a little bit. But I did, as I say, I did enjoy things. I think Dungeons and Dragons players will probably appreciate this movie just a little more than I probably did. Okay? Now, I want to start off by talking about the negatives first. So, we're going to start out. Basically, for me, the first act was a little slow. It really was rocky for me. I did not really get a lot out of it. And so it sort of took me out of it just a little for a few minutes, especially about midway through that first act. Once we got to the second and third acts, much better, much more satisfying. But I thought the first act was just a little slow moving. Second, I'm going to just tell you the runtime is supposed to be about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And to me, it was about 15 minutes too long. I thought they could have smacked 15 minutes off of there and probably delivered a good movie, and I would have probably been even more interested in it, especially if they could have cut some off of that first act. Now, along with that, another issue, another down for me would be some of the CGI. And I don't really know where to go with this because I think a lot of Dungeons and Dragons players might give this a pass. And you know, some of what we've seen, they were trying to do some more realistic type scenes, but some of the characters just they look very fake to me, and I'm not really a big fan of that. I want your CGI to be decent. And so I can believe that if you're talking about something that is half falcon, half lion, that it looks like it's half falcon, half lion, or something like that. And I thought there were a couple instances that I didn't really get that. Now, the last thing that I'm going to go as a down, and that is going to be, I didn't think they really developed the bad guy good enough. Okay? And of course, we have one character who is sort of presented as the bad guy, but there's really someone pulling his strings. And, you know, I thought that was interesting. You figure that out early on. But I never felt our good guys were ever in that much danger. And that sort of took a little away from me. You know, I have a general rule for fantasy, especially, that your good guys cannot be as good as they can be unless the bad guy is as bad as he can be or she can be. And so with that, I thought they needed to show why the bad guys were not the choice and why they were bad. And I don't think they showed enough of that. Now for the ups. And just to hit some ups, I'm going to start out with what I call the technical aspects. Things like sound design, cinematography, photography. The sets looked amazing. And I don't know, they may have filmed this on a soundstage. I have not done any type of research on that. And so with that, I did enjoy that. I found several times the way they presented going across a landscape. I really got into that and enjoyed it. The second thing, That's going to be. I can actually see D&D fans enjoying this. There were some D&D elements that even I'm going to notice. There were a few things that happened that, I'm not going to say they were negatives, but there are things that sometimes you sort of roll your eyes at. Things that happen out of convenience. There's one actual part where one of our heroes is going to get basically what they thought generally was a walking stick, and it turns out it's a magic staff that can create portals. It's going to play a major role in what happens. Problem is, it just sort of was very convenient, them coming upon this staff. And so I don't mind things like that. And I think that it very much sort of fit into the whole idea of Dungeons and Dragons and, finding weapons and things like that to use in a video game. Okay, let's talk about the third act. That is my next up. The third act was awesome. Basically, the action scenes I thought were top notch, rather well choreographed, and the final battle with the Red Witch I thought was absolutely excellent. And I loved how it got the entire team in there, got them involved in taking her down, and basically we saw the growth of some of those characters, and I really enjoyed that in this movie. Now, the fourth up, and this is a way up, is the cast. For the most part, this cast was excellent. I can't think of anyone who I would say did a bad job. I think, of course, Hugh Grant really stood out. He stands out when he does a bad guy. But I really liked his character and sort of the way they used him. But, Chris Pine was excellent. Also, Michelle Rodriguez as Holgar. I really enjoyed her character and sort of what she brought to the group. Okay. And so really enjoyed her. Also, I can never remember his name and I forgot to write it down. But the guy from Bridgerton, the first season of Bridgerton, I really enjoyed his part in it. He wasn't in it a ton, but it was enjoyable. But I will say my favorite character, and it's one that I think I saw the most growth in, was Simon, and he's being played by Justice Smith. And I'm just going to say on this maybe, and I don't want to make it a negative, but Justice Smith's almost 28. And to me, this character of Simon probably should have been late teens, like 18, 19, maybe 20. And Justice Smith just seemed, it always seemed like I was looking at a character that is supposed to be younger. Okay. I remember in the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, I was a big fan of that. And I don't remember the character's name right off the top of my head, but they had the emerging sorcerer. And at times, I saw him being that emerging sorcerer, and then sometimes it just seemed like he was a little bit old for what he was doing. And I think that's because he was 27 in real life. But still, I loved the character's journey. I really enjoyed the way he played Simon. And the whole group, the whole cast, seemed to have some very good chemistry, and they worked really, really well together. Overall, I will say I'm not going to up and down this, but I do think the writing was pretty good. I could follow. There weren't any big issues, except, as I said, the first act was a little rocky. Now, with that, I'm going to give Dungeons and Dragons a B, and that's because there were just too many downs for me, and a couple times I was checking my watch, especially before the third act. Just a few things that, if it's going to be an A for me, you've got to eliminate some of those downs. But overall, very enjoyable movie. It was plenty of fun. So go watch it. I mean, I think you guys will probably like it. But, for me, I've got to give it a B. Now, That's our review. I hope everybody enjoyed. Please subscribe to the channel, crush that like button, and comment below. And I'll see you next time on the